Morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the April 25th Board of Directors meeting, NID Board. Could you please join me in the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to come speak to us on items that are not on the agenda and items that we have subject matter jurisdiction over. So with that.
Good morning, I'm Michael Hillweld. I'm a resident of Division 1. I continue to be disappointed that the board has not included the Centennial Dam project as a routine item on the agenda. Despite written requests from at least 2 members of the public, the general manager has apparently determined that the Centennial Dam project is not a matter directly related to district business per NID policy 5020.2.2. In my opinion, his decision defies logic and fails to provide the transparency so desperately needed relating to this project. I urge the board to at least have a discussion about making it a regular agenda item. This would enable the public to know which board members actually support the public's right to know and which do not. One other item, several months ago, the district contracted for an audit of the Centennial Dam project. Since then, we've heard nothing about the contract or the audit. No schedule for completion or status report. I'm requesting that the general manager provide a status report as part of the general manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. Oh, my time started. Nicole Ragland, Nevada City. Dams kill fish. Dams block the migration of fish. They deplete rivers of oxygen and interfere with the biological triggers that guide fish. They also reduce the ability of rivers to clean themselves. Due to dam building and other factors, freshwater species have lost 76% of their populations since 1970. Twice the loss of marine and terrestrial ecosystems. Dams are changing the climate. Dams are not climate neutral. Organic matter rotting in reservoirs emits methane, an aggressive greenhouse gas. The floods and droughts caused by climate change in turn make dams less safe and less economic. Dams displace people. Dams have displaced an estimated 80 million people globally. Displacement robs people who are already poor, marginalized of their resources, skills, and cultural identity. Specifically, in this case of the proposed dam, are original peoples, the Nisenan. You know this, you say you feel for them, yet you move forward without the EIR being presented to the public. Dams are expensive. They belong to a category of the most expensive investments many governments have ever made. Due to planning errors, technical problems, and corruption, dams experience average delays of 44% and cost overruns of 96%. Such massive overruns make them uneconomic. Passing the cost of this proposed dam, to NID customers is not fiscally responsible. We do not have the population, nor do you have the customer base to carry such an expenditure. Commoditizing water when it is part of the commons sustains a community. But when you start corporatizing it for profit, you have moral corruption. Water is life.
Marin Lipowitz, Grass Valley.
Could we hold down the applause next time?
Anyone who'd like to join me, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the earth and all the life it supports, one planet in our care, irreplaceable with sustenance and respect for all. Rivers rock, dams kill rivers. So on that same note about killing fish, I brought part one of the salmon saga a while back from Sherman Alexie, who is a member of the Salish tribe, talking about the Grand Coulee Dam and how it literally exterminated all the salmon in both the Upper Columbia and the Salish rivers. Those salmon were huge. They were the size of golden retrievers, and there was almost more salmon than water in those rivers. They're all gone. Sherman Alexie concluded, "What is it like to be a Spokane Indian without wild salmon? It is like being a Christian if Jesus had never rolled back the stone and risen from the tomb." That's extreme, but salmon are their religion. So today I'd like to share something from the Columbia River History Project. The Grand Coulee Dam impacts on fish. In the first burst of enthusiasm, this was written in 2010, in the first burst of enthusiasm that the whole Northwest felt at the culmination of its plans, the fact that the construction of this dam would strike a serious blow to the Columbia River fishery was overlooked by the general public. When the plans for the high dam finally were approved, it became apparent that salmon could not be put over a dam of this height as they had been at the much lower Rock Island and Bonneville dams. The stock of salmon spawning in some 1,100 miles of river and tributaries was to be permanently destroyed. Further study revealed that the alternative methods for preserving these runs would be extremely expensive if they were possible. There was a feeling that the vast economic gains to be derived from this project should not be endangered by consideration of the fish. It was even felt in some quarters that the fish were not worth the money that it would take to preserve them. I don't know what impact Centennial will have on salmon, but I'd just like to say that this is a salmon crime scene.
I can't see it.
Okay, thank you.
Dams kill salmon.
And
Good morning, board, staff, and concerned citizens. I'm Mike Pasner, farming in Penn Valley with NID Water for 32 years. There's a picture circulated to the board, and there's one going around in the audience, of the farm ditch, where they have defoliated the banks and the bottom of the water with aquatic herbicides and with terrestrial herbicides. I'm currently having two main problems with NID's water management. One is the Crap Dam, Centennial Reservoir and Power. This project is ill-conceived, poorly followed through on, and destined to fail. Failure may take several years. Meanwhile, this board buys property with no approval of project's description. This item, the Crap Dam, should be agendized at every board meeting so that the public may fully address this money waster. Secondly, Vegetation Management Working Group, now called the IVM, isn't open to stakeholders, and the board has not fixed that. No minutes or agenda also are not a fixed situation by this board. Only considering terrestrial vegetation management when it should also be considering aquatic vegetation management at the same time. The board has not acted on that or fixed that situation. I gave you a list of how cleaning ditches with small rubber tracked excavators makes financial and physical sense, yet this board will not consider it as part of their research project for the working group. I'm glad you're doing the terrestrial testing, and some good may come of this. Please start being thorough and working on your toxic drip aquatic management program. Give full consideration to the excavator possibility. It will work and it'll be economical. Open this group like you have the Scotts Flat Working Group. Hear from the stakeholders. Start operating in transparency. The picture that is being circulated is the farm ditch on Spenceville Wildlife Refuge. It's been defoliated, as you can see. The people walking in the grass is less than 6 inches tall. Why do you defoliate when it's less than 6 inches tall? That's supposedly your rule in the vegetation management book. Just downstream a little ways, the ditch is left to go wild. It's flowing without any poison use. I'm going to use the remainder. Oh boy, never mind. Thank you. Yeah, they won't do it.
Sorry. It's not an auction.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Bonham, and I'm a resident of Cedar Ridge and a longtime Placer County, Nevada County resident. I don't have any scientific statistics for you this morning. My reason for being here is strictly personal. I am a proud member of Circle. I am a volunteer and a river monitor, and I am a new dam watchdog member. I am here this morning to talk with you about my personal feelings towards the Centennial Dam. I love the Bear River and its canyon, and I love all the rivers, the Yuba, the American, all the rivers. And my family moved to Dog Bar Road in the summer of 1972, just before I entered the 7th grade. My sister and I explored the area in our first few days here, and I discovered the Bear River at the Dog Bar Bridge. We hiked upstream and we found a beautiful swimming hole and tons of kids. The hole was called Duckbill because the rock went out over the river and we could all jump in and swim. We swam and we jumped and we did it again and again all day long. And that was our spot. We grew up there. Hours, days, years, our memories. We also discovered Milk Ranch Campground upstream, now called the Bear River Campground. We hiked, we rode horses, we picnicked, and we generally misbehaved. We grew up in the Bear River Canyon, and as we grew older, we shared it with our family. I shared it with my family, who shared it with their children and their children. The Bear River and its canyon, it's beautiful, it's historic, and it's a sanctuary. Centennial Dam would have a negative environmental, cultural, and economic impact, kill trees, wildlife, and natural wetlands. Having lost my sister in 2001, all I have are my memories. I don't want them at the bottom of a huge lake. It will destroy our beautiful bear and its canyon. NID can come up with a better plan than this outdated dam. Thank you.
Again.
Sorry for the device shuffling here. My name is Sid Brown, and I'm afraid I'm known to most of you at the board table and staff. I've been coming to these meetings, twice monthly board meetings and committee meetings for most of the last year. I want to publicly express my appreciation and admiration for the good work and committed employees of the district. Yours is an organization with a distinguished history of getting things done and delivering water. However, there are problems with information providing, transparency, and collaboration. The district has made strides in the last year, and I do appreciate it. But as an example, I would like to bring to everyone's attention, while we requested a monthly or bi-monthly update on Centennial for the public to be involved, the decision was made to provide that opportunity at monthly engineering committee meetings. I've attended those engineering committee meetings, and I have not been informed nor enlightened with what's going on at Centennial. And I would like to specifically give the example that at the last engineering committee meeting, which I believe was April 17th, the WISIP application before the California Water Commission was mentioned, but what was not mentioned was this letter that was received by NID project engineer a week before that meeting. And in the concluding paragraph, it is not a surprise, but the staff of the California Water Commission is making the recommendation that the Centennial application is ineligible. Now, this is not a surprise, it's not groundbreaking, but what is a surprise and what is disappointing and disingenuous is that this was not described nor revealed at that engineering committee meeting. And I urge you to really get real information before the public, deserve our trust, we want to trust, we want to work with you, and this kind of lack of sharing of information, of being open, is completely disappointing. Thank you.
Could you please hold the applause? You know, it's not that I'm for or against anything, but the applause, I think, detracts from the business element of this. So I just ask for your cooperation is all. And I'm not trying to make a joke out of it, but I don't think it's funny. Sir.
Sir.
You got
My name
3
is Louis Elbinger.
3 seconds now.
I lost
Sorry.
3 seconds there. My name is Louis Elbinger, and I'm from Mount Shasta. We have a lot of similar problems in Siskiyou County as the problems that are here in Nevada County. In Siskiyou County, they're trying to, it's Crystal Geyser, which is a Japanese corporation-owned entity, is trying to take the water out of from our mountain, essentially. And I'm personally affected because I have a well, and it's going to affect me. I'm visiting friends here in Nevada County, and I've learned about the Centennial Dam, which sounds to me like a terrible idea because it seems to be a 19th century solution to a 21st century problem. The 21st century solution seems to me to be groundwater or reservoir capturing. And I understand that there's other problems with the dam. The Nisenan tribe considers these to be sacred lands. I'm very concerned about indigenous rights, and I think that this has to be taken into consideration. Also, I've learned that there seems to be no EIR, environmental inspection report. That's shocking to me because it seems that an enterprise of this type should begin with an EIR, not end with one. And doesn't seem to be much transparency because decisions are being made by this board that are not being done in public. They're being done in closed session. I noticed that one member of this board doesn't pay any attention to the people speaking, Mr. Miller, and I think that's very disrespectful. I'm running for Congress on the Green Party ticket to represent this district, and I want to see representatives represent the people, not corporations, banks, and insurance companies. Thank you.
Diana Suarez, Colfax, California. I want to address what Sid talked about because I took a day and drove all the way over here to go to this engineering committee meeting and sat through as much as I had time for. And then I found out about this letter, and I'm pretty appalled that you're withholding negative information while the promotion of the dam goes on. And I would also like to bring up the video, Kumim Seu, River of the Roundhouses. I've requested a showing at this forum to balance out all the dam promotion that Director Drew has put forward. And it's a deaf ear, and it's no response. I want a reason. It's the actual area that will be inundated. What is more valuable information than that? And the voices of the people across the river who are not represented here. So there's two things that this board is very biased in: the information that it allows to come forward, the information it passes on, and the information it hides from the public. Thank you.
Well, we've only got down to one clapper now.
Pamela Osgood, Grass Valley. For many years, I worked in the peace and justice movement and traveled around the world speaking about disarmament and everything many years ago. And I traveled in what's now the former Soviet Union. And I think we know, most of us grew up here knowing how closed their political system was and how the politicians lied to the public and kept information from the public. And I'm very disheartened to see that people who are living in a democratic republic, as we are, who have been given responsibility to be honest to the people that they serve, are acting somewhat secretive as the, and I'm not up on the present Russia as much as I was on the former Soviet Union. But it seems to me that you guys are acting quite a bit like they did, and not giving us information, not doing any alternative research, and not even allowing a 13-minute film to be shown. What is your reason for that? 13 minutes that you could give all the people, at least on that side of the room. 13 minutes? I mean, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with that, sorry. Move to the.
There's one more.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, I'm Josh Jones. I'm running for governor of California in the Green Party, and I wanted to come here and say that there are other solutions besides damming up rivers, putting a wall. It costs millions of dollars, tens of millions or hundreds of millions in some cases, and there are other ways to do this now with more modern techniques. One way that we save water, or actually kind of create more water, is by reclaiming water, reusing it. All water is recycled, right? Every drop of water that we drink that's on your table there went through the biological system before. It did, because it's not created or destroyed. It's just there. So the cities are using a lot of water, and they can reduce the water coming in, but they need more water. There are more people. So what you do is you reclaim it by mimicking the biological process through bacterial digestion, filtering, chemical treatment, but filtering through gravel and sand, and even possibly artificial marsh. When at the end of the day, when that's done, you can turn the tap. The hydrologist can then drink the water just from a glass, right? So by doing this, you re-inject that water into the ground table nearby the city, and you actually increase your water stock over time. Now, in the case of Nestle or some other company buying up the water to bottle it, it's funny because the bottled water that you're drinking right now has less regs on it, less regulations than tap water. So, bottling water is not really the answer. Privatization of water is not really the answer. What we need is better solutions that don't use up our water stock that's out there. And when there are other things to use, you can have for recreation, just the bringing people in for tourism or whatever, or cultural purposes. Some of these places, once they're altered, they're gone. They're ruined or changed. We can get water in different ways for drinking, for ag. It doesn't all have to be dammed up. We should leave some natural places. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Move now to the consent agenda. Are there any items that...
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second, and then I have a comment after we've.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to the consent agenda. Roll call.
Division 1.
Did you have any, Nick? I'm
Aye.
sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering if Nancy should present her comment before we vote.
I could do it now.
Go ahead.
At the last time we had a quarterly budget presentation, I requested that it not be on the consent agenda, but be out where we would comment on it, and I.
Sorry.
Is my time up? So I asked, I was told, I think, Grim, that it was board policy that we do that, and I asked that we review that policy. So I'm just requesting that again. Okay. And I will say on the compliance, is it called a compliance risk assessment? There was a lot of good information in there about the state of our hydro situation that would be useful for the public to know. And so just to put these on the consent agenda and vote is something I would request that we approve on. That we actually put these, not at the present time, but in the future. I don't want to mess up today's schedule. That we be able to
Okay.
have them where they have more exposure. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second.
We have
Roll call, please.
I'll start again. Division 1.
Aye.
Division 2.
Aye.
Division 3. Division 5.
Aye.
Division 4.
Aye. Motion passed. Special orders, employee introductions. Wyatt Parks and Gabe Sharp, correct?
Good morning, board, staff, audience members. My name is Brian Powell, Maintenance Manager. My pleasure to introduce our newest employees here at the district. First, we have Wyatt Parks. He's going to be a utility worker here at the Placer Yard. And Wyatt was born and raised in Grass Valley, NU grad. He's worked in the construction trade since high school. He worked at REM Malcolm, a structural contractor, a concrete contractor for bridges and buildings. He's recently was working at Jim Dobbs, in the railroad industry. He has experience in site civil work, carpentry, concrete work, and he fishes the Sacramento and Feather Rivers. And John, you'll love this. He's fishing for striper right now.
Good.
So I want to
More power to you.
so we'll welcome Wyatt. Welcome aboard. Next, we have Gabe Sharp. Gabe will be working here in the canal maintenance in the Grass Valley Yard. Gabe was born and raised in Penn Valley, NU grad, married with 3 kids, 13, 10, and 6. He's got his hands full. Lives in Penn Valley now. He recently was working in Browns Valley at the UC Ag and Natural Resources Sierra Foothill Research Center. That's a mouthful. It's a 6,000-acre ranch. It's a grant-funded research project. He was establishing the groundwork for the research studies and doing facility maintenance for him. He also has worked for Caltrans as the equipment operator, snow plowing in the wintertime. And Gabe also likes to hunt and fish, and we're really looking forward to working with Gabe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, general order, excuse me. Department of Water Resources Funding Agreement, Assistant General Manager Greg Jones.
Good morning, board, staff, members of the public. I'm Greg Jones, the Assistant General Manager, NID. Bringing to you today a project that's been on the books and been in the NID's spotlight since about 2008 or 9, when the CEQA document was passed for sediment removal and mercury remediation at Combi Reservoir. Today, I'm bringing forward to you an agreement with the Department of Water Resources through a budget change amendment that was made last year with the state of California, officially documented as of July 1, 2017, in the amount of $5,500,000 to award NID to support the project of mercury removal and sediment removal project at Combi Reservoir. Since we have officially received the authorization for this project and the award, it's taken that long to get the agreement together with DWR. It's just a kind of an ongoing process. However, the funding for this 5.5 is backdated to project expenses and costs that NID has incurred since January 1st, 2017. Let's see. This is you've heard this project before in the past from my predecessor, Tim Crow, and moving forward, this has multiple benefits of not only Lake Combi and its mercury methylation processes throughout that lake, but many of the other 300 plus or 190 plus mercury impaired reservoirs throughout the state of California. This process is a unique action and process that we're bringing forward to remove not only the sediment but also centrifuge out the mercury out of that sediment. We anticipate removing roughly between 150 and 200,000 cubic yards of sediment out of the eastern portion of Lake Combi. We anticipate that's going to recover roughly 100 to 110 acre feet of storage capacity in the lake, and we anticipate bringing mercury as well out of that reservoir, which in turn will help the Bay Delta recover from its mercury contamination problems that are sourced mostly in the foothills off of the tributaries after the 1880s, 1890s gold rush era as they're bringing in mercury to extract gold. So a lot of benefits for the state. DWR's interest is really identifying if we can create a method that can be replicated throughout the state, give other water purveyors, water agencies, and lake and reservoir owners an opportunity to see what we've done. This is a highly intensive research project. We're coordinating with multiple agencies in 4 weeks from now, since next board meeting is canceled. The following board meeting at the end of May, I will bring to you the contracts that we're going to be executing and working with, which includes Great Lakes Environmental, Tykert. There's a partnership there, Great Lakes Environmental and Tykert Aggregates, H&K, which is now NV5, the USGS, United States Geological Survey, the Sierra Fund, and a few others. So I'll be bringing a number of information to you in a few weeks. Right now, it's a matter of authorizing the resolution that is in the board packet, authorizing the general manager to make necessary, execute the funding agreement, and all the attachments here too. Do you have any questions?
Greg, I need you to review the number you threw out there.
5.5?
No, the 110,000 acre feet.
110. Oh, yeah.
110
you said
acre feet.
You
I
said
apologize.
100 to 110,000 acre feet.
I apologize. That was a
So I would ask you to review your
Director
number.
Miller.
A couple orders of magnitude.
Can you please review your order?
It is
What
You said 110.
100 to 100 acre feet.
Very good, without the 1,000.
110 acre feet.
This
Not
is-
the 1,000.
Very good. That's the size of Rollins Reservoir, yes. So this is huge, and it has been a long time coming, and this board has been steadfast in its pursuit. This is good stuff. This is in partnership with the Department of Water Resources Riverine Stewardship Program and the state of California. NID's Combi Reservoir Sediment and Mercury Removal Project has been appropriated $5.5 million from the Proposition 13 Bay Delta Multipurpose Water Management Program. The Combi Reservoir Sediment and Mercury Removal Project is a pilot water supply maintenance project that removes sediment from Combi Reservoir while introducing an innovative recovery process to reduce elemental mercury concentrations in the Bear River watershed. The project will utilize a series of design, construction, and operation processes to remove sediment and extract mercury from the aquatic environment. This project will utilize a patented centrifuge technology to remove elemental mercury from the removed sediments. The project will also conduct scientific research and analysis in order to quantify the effects of the operation on water quality and biota, This pilot project is estimated to take 3 to 4 years to complete. Project benefits include water supply reliability, recovery of storage to some degree, water quality improvement, ecosystem restoration, and enhanced recreational opportunities. If this project demonstrates that mercury can effectively be removed from river sediments, the process can be applied at other reservoirs throughout the Sierra Nevada. In time, there could be a beneficial effect towards remediation and reduction of mercury contamination in other impaired reservoirs. Such remediation efforts would also be beneficial to the California's Bay Delta ecosystem. This is huge. I'm very proud of this board, having pursued this for this time. And I would move that we adopt Resolution 20-18-8, authorizing the general manager to execute the funding agreement and any amendments thereto in the amount of $5.5 million with the Department of Water Resources for the Common Beach Sediment and Mercury Removal Project.
I'll second that. Oh, did I cut somebody off? I'll second that.
Is there any discussion here?
I have a comment.
Of course.
Our partnership with the Sierra Fund is more prominent than our partnership with the other agencies that will be helping carry this out. The Sierra Fund was instrumental in us getting this money. They have the scientific background with Carrie Monahan to be able to support and supplement some of the skills that NID does not have. Izzy, who's the CEO of the Sierra Fund, was instrumental in going through budgets for other grant programs, not just, it wasn't Proposition 1, it was earlier money that hadn't been spent in order to help find this, and her lobbying helped bring it forth. When we have partners of this caliber working with us as true partners, I would like to see them recognized. There was an article in the paper about this in the fall, and the Sierra Fund was not mentioned. NID is carrying this out. There's no question that we are essential to it and that it is our project in many senses of the word. But we do need to recognize the people who work with us, and I'd appreciate if we could do that.
I'd like to make a suggestion along that line, Nancy, and I think that's a good idea. When we finally kick this project off, I'd like to have all of those folks in the boardroom here with us so that we can share the beginning of this very unusual project. First of its kind in the state, likely the first of its kind in the nation, and the district is without question the leader in this stuff.
Since we're singing accolades, I'd like to also extend our thanks to the Secretary, Secretary Laird, who without his direction and without his staff and without his office, the budget amendment that caused this transaction to happen would not have happened. So it's very important to understand that through Izzy and through our connections with the Secretary, we were able to bring this money to our community to lead this project.
And I'm proud of the board because it's been uphill in the beginning. Before we got this money, we took some risks to be able to bring in the equipment to do it. And we do have the only piece of equipment.
And Izzy and the Sierra Fund were huge with us, yes.
Thank you for that. We'll definitely have all our project partners in the room next board meeting as we talk about the contracts. Many of them will have to talk somewhat technical about their role as well. And so I appreciate that. And we'll look back on that release and ensure that for the future going forward, we're recognizing all of our partners, because Rem's and your points are absolutely correct. That this is a unique, it's different, it's changing constantly, and it takes a lot of people in the room who are very bright and intelligent to think about how many different ways, from funding to actual implementation to making the engineering of it work.
Thank you for mentioning that. Is there any public comment?
Diana Suarez, Colfax, California. I would like to commend NID for going forward with this. I would also like to point out that this is toxic waste cleanup and an unforeseen consequence of putting a dam in the Bear River. I would also like to point out that Rollins additionally is a toxic waste cleanup site, and I would like to point out that the Bear River doesn't need toxic waste cleanup. And I would put forward that by creating yet another dam on the Bear River, you are creating a toxic waste cleanup that will go on as a legacy to our children and their children. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mike Pasner, Indian Springs Organic Farm, Penn Valley. I'd like to thank the board for doing a good job on this one. I got to give you compliments once in a while for doing good work. You're removing mercury now. Next, you'll be removing elemental copper. Let's stop putting it in before we have to worry about taking it out.
We didn't put it in, of course.
Yes, you are.
No, the mercury. The mercury. This is dialogue, Diane, and I was...
Hold on.
I agree with the copper part. I'm saying, we didn't put the mercury in.
You're correct.
And Rollins already keeps it. The funny part is the...
He can have a discussion if you want.
This
Go
is
ahead.
on the agenda.
Yeah.
This is on the agenda. This is what I always try and say to everybody. This is where we get to talk back and forth.
Just address the item.
But your issue with the entrapment of mercury at a potential new dam site, the Rollins Dam's already caught it to whatever large degree. Well, then maybe there is some, and then the entrapment would allow us to get rid of it. So it's a funny discussion. It's not an absolute discussion on that one.
No, hold on.
But it's already behind the Rollins Dam.
Hey, hold on.
So we're not really expecting it to be a new. This is almost a good spot to have a clean dam. Well, just another side of that same discussion.
Yeah.
Time for chocolate.
We don't need to have
It's absolute.
We don't need to have a discussion from the audience. You have your opportunity to come here and talk. So, I mean, if you want to say something.
And we're done. We're done.
I'm just trying to get some order in. Go ahead, Ms. Ogden.
That's good. That's your job, isn't it? Yeah.
He takes it very seriously. He's a fine young man.
Just wondering, what's going to happen to all this mercury?
Good question.
What you're going to do with the mercury, and worker safety? You know, mercury is so dangerous.
Can you state your name for the record? Thank you.
This is kind of why it's taken 10 years to get here. We've been going through all these things ad nauseum for a long time, but.
So mercury, sorry, Dr. Miller. So mercury is a toxic substance. Absolutely, we have to abide by all OSHA standards and regulations as we remove, extract, and handle the mercury. I couldn't tell you exactly the process that happens, but it is contained, it's sequestered, it's removed from the watershed, and it's disposed of accordingly. And all of our activities, all of our contractors and folks on site are constantly engaged with safety and OSHA regulated activities.
Yeah, it's all, there's an EIR on this that was done and is posted and does in elaborate fashion. We have to take the sediments out. I used to think, why can't you just put up a curtain, get the stuff out, and let all, but no, the state has its regulations, and that was a little too efficient. So we have to dredge it, and then we put it on the side to piles, and there are specific distributions in and amongst and where it can be sent and utilized and or disposed of, including what's allowed to be used in road bases and things like that. But it's boy, help me out here, everybody. There's a full EIR that we did on all this that very much addresses those issues. That's why it took the 10 years to get here. Partly, rightfully. Again, we do sit and listen and try to get it all there. But find the EIR is it online somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah, so go to the website, read the EIR, and you can find your answers to those things that are in there. But that's a quick synopsis, if you will, to be non-scientifically described. But yeah, the handling of it is very important, and the interesting part, we had to have spoil piles just to process it. Then we put it in the darn machine that Johnny and I negotiated out at this board out of Canada, the centrifuge machine. So very elaborate process. That's what makes it so unique and weird. And can it be applied elsewhere is the exciting part. And that gets us back to our friends at the Sierra Club that are really open, and we're all rooting for it to work.
Sierra
I'm
Fun.
sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Just speaking off the cuff here. But anyway, you get what I'm saying? There is documentation of how it is all handled and where it would all go. That's what the EIR is, that we always have to do.
I can ensure that when we bring our project partners up in a couple weeks or a couple months, or a month, excuse me,
We can discuss that as our implementation efforts are working. That's just a quick overview.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. With that,
Start all over again.
we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Division 1.
Aye.
Division 2.
Aye.
Division 3.
Then we can start all over again. Yes.
Division 5.
Change my
Aye.
Division 4.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
You can.
Okay, next up is the Raw Water Master Plan update.
Somebody in the room.
General Manager Schertzinger.
Chip, can I have the remote as well? All right.
Well, just say it.
Good morning, board, staff.
Anybody clear a
and-
room like that in a long time. Who is this guy? Trying to see?
And public. It's my pleasure to present to you this morning the Resolution 2018-09 and a budget amendment to update the Raw Water Master Plan 2013 and authorize myself to execute the appropriate documents. The item before you this morning is a resolution to start our raw water master planning process. This process was begun in 2005 and was completed in 2013, or at least the plan chapters 1 through 7 were completed in 2013, and then we were engaged in attempting to complete chapter 8, which had our projects and the environmental document. In January, the WHO committee requested that staff engage in an update to the H&H, the hydraulic and hydrology, that drove the 2005 Raw Water Master Plan, given that we have a number of new issues that the Raw Water Master Plan 05 did not address, and those are climate change, some of our FERC relicensing water demand changes, as well as some of the state conservation that's coming our way. As a result of that, it became clear to staff that the Raw Water Master Plan must be updated to a now scenario and to try to project a 50-year time event, in that right now the district's operating on a 2032 event horizon. We need to extend that out as we plan our raw water deliveries into the future. And these are myriad, right? These are our treated water customers, these are our ag water customers, these are our environmental customers. So it is very important at this point to reset the Raw Water Master Plan and move forward. One of the things that the community continues to ask for is a open and transparent process that involves the public. And so thank you to Bob and the book that Bob gave me. We are going to engage in a full-on public process to take us through the Raw Water Master Plan, and I anticipate in 24 months to be standing here with a document with a series of pathways that the board can consider and adopt as its new chapters 1 through 7 to begin our project selection into the future.
Time course, you just said?
We're anticipating 18 to 24 months to run through this process as identified on the flow chart that was provided in the board packet.
You can't read.
Which you can't read. But I have a solution. I'm going to give this a go. Right. So I want to try. Oh, it's not under my control. Rats. Oh, it's on. Yeah, it's on. Chip, give me control. Yeah. Okay, so I'm got that. Oh, I got it. Hold on. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Stop. Here we go. Continue. All right. So
young and technologically agile.
I rehearsed this. So this process. Whoa. Okay. Don't touch it. Don't touch it after you're done.
Damn millennials.
We anticipate this being a 4-phase process. The first phase being the establishment really of the TAC. The Technical Advisory Committee will be a group of individuals that are going to take in the data from the district, decompress that information, and start to develop the pathways in terms of the solution to the 50-year program. So we anticipate having, as you can see, I'm going to use a term that we've been using internally, and these are the swim lanes. So at the top you have NID's technical group. These are the folks that are going to be performing the technical memorandums, building the information to provide to the TAC as the TAC goes through its decision-making process. Then you have the board. Clearly, the board has a number of decisions that it will make as it goes through this process. The next one that we anticipate after this decision will be formalizing the TAC guidelines, the rules and the structure of the TAC. And then we have the TAC itself and how it's going to work, and then the community. So it's very important for us to reach out to the community, to start informing the community about the issues that the district faces, what its capabilities are, so that the community can then speak to the TAC members and bring that information into the TAC setting so that we can start working on the problem statement, which occurs in phase 2, and then problem solution, which follows on. So the second part of this is and it's kind of half in, half out, is phase 2. And this is, I tried this earlier and it didn't quite, did it take my, all right, slide over, that's it. Thank you, Chip. Right on. You don't know how much we've rehearsed that. So this is phase 2. And so after the TAC is formed, it's important then to begin to inform the TAC about the mechanisms within the district. And the first thing that we're going to have is the hydraulic and hydrology analysis. And this is how the district collects water, essentially, and where that water is stored and how that water is delivered. So really it's very, very important for the TAC to be able to understand how NID operates and where it gets its source water from, how it delivers its source water, when it's available, when it's not available, and what's the environment that the system has to operate in, both in the past and in the future. Then we go on to our demand analysis. So now we're informing the TAC about the district's demands, not just what they are currently, but what they are projected to be in terms of general plans and other community expansion. Then we move on. Once they have a good feeling of the demands, then we move into supply, and we explain where NID supplies are, what's available, what's not available, how do we do it. So now if you truncate all of that into one concept, that's the problem statement genesis, right? We know how NID operates, we know what its demands are, and we know what its supply is. And so the TAC then can create its problem statement. Once it has its problem statement, then we bring that back, we finalize that, and we bring that to the board. That's the first key element and the work product of phase 2. Oh yeah, sorry, I was going to try to do it myself. Go ahead, Chip, thanks. So that leads us into phase 3, and this is where a lot of the meat of the program has to work. This is where the TAC is moving through an iterative process to develop multiple pathways to solve.
Diane, is the light necessary? It just, right on. I work nights and I get headaches and stuff. Plus I like to close. It just got to be. All right, whatever. It's irritating.
So this section is where
I might close my eyes. Excuse me.
The TAC takes forward the information that it's been given, meaning the hydrology, the demand, and the supply, and starts going through an iterative process to develop not just one solution, but many solutions. So this is the part where we're developing pathways to resolve our 50-year event horizon. So they're going to set up different methodologies to do that. We anticipate clearly a status quo one. This is what the general plan wants. This is the direction we're going. And you could conceivably have ones that are demand side solution only, supply side solution only, but there's going to be a series of those pathways that will be a balance. And that's what we need the TAC to work on. Yes, sir.
So they was TAC?
They are the TAC.
You said they would
Yes.
make the decision. Okay, so the
Yes.
TAC will make the decision. And
So
that's a citizens involved group.
Yes. So the ultimate decision, Director Miller, is the board's, but the goal here is to present the board with a number of opportunities or options as it rolls forward. So once we've gone through the iterative process there of developing what the TAC thinks are the pantheon of pathways to get the board to its 50-year goal. Those are then incorporated in and presented to the board in phase 4. Chip? So phase 4 is where those pathways are then brought to the board. The board will then debate the merits of each of the pathways and listen to the TAC and listen to staff and listen to the public and then pick its pathway. Yes, sir.
So going back, the board is not excluded, but we're not, we come in at phase 4, we're kind of looped out at the other.
No, sir.
If we go back, I was.
Roll back, Chip.
Are we on the TAC?
No, sir.
We're not on the TAC.
You're not on the TAC. So there's a number of decisions that are happening. So you can see, Dr. Miller, your board approves the process. The board receives its update on the formation of the TAC, and the TAC is then running.
Okay.
Then we go into phase 2. After the phase 2 is done, then the board receives the problem statement, agrees that the problem statement is what it wants to address. Then it moves forward again. And then the board receives pathways and the triggers and provides comments and questions. So everything that the TAC has done, we bring back to the board weighs it out, and then we bring it back out to be finalized. And then in the end, in phase 4, that's when the board's working its hardest, right? Because then the board is deciding to take in all of this input, decide on the pathway for the 50-year event, and we move forward.
And then in your 24-month time, 18 to 24-month timeline that I asked you about.
Yes.
Do these phases have brackets?
Yes, sir. So at the bottom of this and in the package, we've tried to roughly
green line down here?
Yeah, we've tried to roughly give a quarterly timeline. But I think the thing to remember is that this is a skeleton idea. As we bring our consultants on board, our facilitator, some of our technical team, as well as the public relations component, we're going to have to take input from them because they're the professionals in this process. They're going to have to help us refine this concept as well as develop the TAC rules and design. Yes, sir.
I'll get close to the mic.
Thank you.
Can you describe how the formation of the TAC takes place? What elements of the community comprise the TAC, and how do the various elements on the TAC receive and digest public input?
So right now that's a draft concept. So staff is starting to form an idea around.
Thank you,
individual. There will be sectors on the TAC. We anticipate roughly 9 individuals on the TAC that are from different sectors within the district's service territory. So, and this is all subject to change once we have the facilitator on board. If the facilitator says, no, it's better to segregate the TAC this way, then we would bring it forward. But right now, staff is conceptualizing a TAC of 9 that represents regional and state government, because we have customers in both of those, local government, cities in that, business, agriculture, environmental, mutuals. We have one section that's in the concept is board appointed, because we want to be able to have the board appoint individuals, customers, affected customers onto this body. Is that all 9 of them?
Cultural?
Cultural would come under either business or local government, as the tribes are their sovereign nations, and we want to respect their sovereign position, right? One of the UAIC is a customer of the district, and so
they could be in both places.
One or the other.
That's the thing is the rules are going to have to figure out how people go on to this. So it'll be very important. The tax selection's important. The thing is that unlike the cannabis process that the county went through, it's our belief that it's best to have the community self-select the individuals that go into the subgroups that feed the selection of the TAC member. So each TAC member will be selected by a greater body of similar entities. So, for instance, the local government TAC member. There's on that, in that subcommittee is Nevada City, Grass Valley, Lincoln, and Auburn, right? Those are our 4 local government entities. They will select one individual to represent those 4 on the TAC. At least that's how we envision it at this point. But this structure and the rules and the expectations of the TAC will be brought to the board next for its approval as we move forward.
You got to get your vendor.
We have to the next step we have, Director Miller, is we have to get an RFP out to get our facilitator on board to start building this process for us, to go through this process to say that it makes sense and to continue forward. And really that's outlined in the resolution. Yes, sir.
So the selection of the TAC members is down the road
yes.
a little bit. The selection of those segments of the community that the TAC shall represent is in the hands of whom? Is it in the hands of the...
Ultimately, it's in the hands of the board.
Ultimately in the hands of the board.
Yes.
So will that come to us as an item to basically approve these subcategories of individuals to be represented on the TAC?
The subgroups?
Well,
no.
okay.
But the TAC members and
okay,
what
so
group they represent?
If there's 9 members and they represent different elements of the community, let's say counties is one of the TAC. The board's responsibility is to designate counties as a TAC member, and then the counties can figure out who their rep is.
Yes. Yeah, we think it's better that the community in these subgroups identify their member and send their member forward.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay, so next steps for us. We have our project manager on board. We've retained Zunhero Engineers. We have Jim Crowley as our project manager currently. He's helping me start this first lift as we start to tool up our project team. The next steps for us will be the development of the RFP for facilitation and PR and an ombudsman and those things, as well as the development and transfer of some of our contracts on the technical side to start preparing to move our H&H technical memorandum creation and some of the other stuff onto this project, onto Project 1041. And then once we have the facilitator on board, we'll build the TAC item, and that will come to the board for its consideration. So with that, it is my request to approve Resolution 2018-09. And I apologize. I have
a question.
Yes, sir.
Before, where has this been done previously? This type of concept has it been done in another jurisdiction? And
so that we haven't.
Where did it come from? In other words, besides,
it came out of this crazy book that Bob gave me. So it's all Bob's fault.
There was a book.
Stand up, Bob.
Yeah. So Bob
Actually,
Brandstrom handed me a book that he got in Portland, and it makes sense, right? And it's truly the core of the book is about informing the public.
Title?
Oh man, Bob, I can run go get it.
Handbook of Public Participation.
There you go. So really, we need to inform the public about what the issues are that the district is facing. We need that public to weigh the decisions ahead of it, come up with a problem statement, and then start to work on that problem. And so that's where this is coming from.
That's the
we
genesis.
we know that it's been used in a number of ways.
That's what I'm getting at.
Other ways. I don't know of another water district that has done it like this. We know that we recently found East Bay Mud did a public process, but not openly. The point here is that we have for this process to work, we must remain agnostic to the end result, and we have to walk into this process with our eyes open and welcoming of all ideas. And that have I found in some of these other processes, Director Morbeck, has been the Achilles heel, right? It's always hard for an entity, a governmental entity to be open and accept, right? It always has a preconceived notion. It's always running with a preconceived notion. So we want to be able to create a space where there's a bulwark between that, right? So that staff's not driving it. And that's why I think it's really important to segregate the process into the facilitator, project manager. All of that stuff is away from our staff. Staff is going to run the technical stuff, provide the technical support that we can, and answer the questions that need to be answered so that the TAC can make strong, informed decisions that will stand the test of time. We're trying to construct a document, a plan, that spans 50 years. Okay? A lot of things are going to happen in 50 years. A lot of things are going to happen in the next 5 years if the state has its way. And we have to make sure that this foundation, this jump-off point, has strong, accurate information so that the future, those that come in the future can build on that. And it's the age-old it's the adage. You build the plan, you create the plan, and then you work the plan. Plan the work, work the plan. There we go. Got it. Sorry. Took me a minute.
Plan the work and what?
Plan the work, work the plan.
Okay.
Right? I think the thing that always causes us a problem is that we develop
Bob's book again?
No. This is now our book. We often develop plans that are shelf weight. We come up with a plan, we send it out to the counties. The counties are allowed to put input. We take the input, we decide, okay, yeah, it's good or it's not good, and then we add or subtract, and then we shelve it. It's really, really important that the raw water master plan, which is the genesis of all planning at the district, right? This sets up the urban water management plan. This sets up the ag water management plan. This sets up the capital improvement plan. This document is like our general plan. Yes, sir.
So, for example, the Lincoln Water Treatment Plant.
Yes.
It's on a shelf.
Yes.
So when you're saying prioritize based on this in the resolution, this might tell us to take that off the shelf? Or leave it on the shelf?
Well, so right now, when what you're referring to,
your shelf thing.
Right. So this is one of the issue. One of the be it therefore resolved. The district will prioritize its work, giving the highest priority to the update of the raw water master plan. What
So
that
we can
says.
use it to make a decision.
Yes, sir. So what we're doing is we're moving the raw water master plan to the primary position in terms of the district's future work.
Okay. Such as the Lincoln
Such
Water.
as.
Yeah. Okay.
So this item was not budgeted in this year's budget, and so staff would request that we transfer $100,000 out of the backbone extension program, leaving $900,000 in that budget. We transfer another $100,000 out of the raw water pipeline replacement program, leaving $1 million in that budget. We transfer an additional $100,000 out of minor system replacement program, leaving $500,000 in that budget, and $100,000 out of the community investment program, leaving $2.2 million in that budget. And then finally, $100,000 out of the Alta Sierra Tank project, leaving $1.6 million in the 2018 budget. So this is the first infusion of capital. I don't imagine that a process like this, which will be intensive and will require significant activity in terms of our consultants and staff and the public, will end at $500,000. Well, staff, we believe that this is easily $1 million project, if not more. So, but this will get us up and running. I don't anticipate eclipsing this money in this fiscal year, but in 2019 we'll need to make another. We will set this project, and we'll need to set additional funds here.
And it would be a budgeted item.
It will be a budgeted item at that point.
Ram, you might want to mention that these transfers of money are not going to leave those various projects in a deficit, in the sense that their primary action that they're taking will continue on.
Correct.
And so some of their needs will be carried over another year. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Yeah.
So we've, Director Weber, the extensions program, any one of the programs, those are our rolling projects. So next year, if the project doesn't get completed this year, it rolls into next year. The Sierra Tank project, that's a singular and distinct. So we may need to we may need to bridge from 18 to 19 as we move that project forward, because that's a critical piece for us at this point.
Marvin says, now you tell me.
Yeah, Marvin's nodding his head up and down, so he knows.
He's saying yes, sir.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just does what he's told. Yeah.
No, that's
He
not
loves
true. I get challenged a lot out of his office. Anyway.
Okay. Work your magic, my friend.
So with that, it is staff's recommendation to approve Resolution 2018-09 and the budget amendment in the amount of $500,000 to update the raw water master plan and to authorize the general manager to execute the appropriate documents.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second.
Sure.
Hold on a second. I wasn't going to forget. And
It can be before.
If you hear me hearing, I'm saying that Rosemary.
okay, so when we get going here, let's try and keep the dialogue this way. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Michael Hillwell, President of Division 1. This step is a step in the right direction. This is a fundamental document and will potentially set the course for the district for 50 years. And I appreciate Rem's comments about that. If it's to be done with transparency, it needs full transparency. I think that's one of the things that he's talking about addressing. And it needs to be an active participation of the residents of the district. I'm surprised that a major and expensive undertaking like this wasn't considered in the budget process. And I'm sure it'll be part of the budget process for the following 2 fiscal years. I'm wondering about whether there's going to be an open bidding process. Your policy provides 4 bidding options, but no guidance as to how this is going to be put out to bid. Which process is going to be used? Will the bid documents be brought to the board for public review and board approval before they're issued? What process will be used to evaluate the bids and select the contractor? There should be more than NID participation in the selection process, I believe. In 30 years in public works, I learned the value of outside perspectives in council, and I think NID should make use of it in selecting all of the contractors under this project. And I believe the contract should come to the board for review and approval. Otherwise, the public will not necessarily learn about them if the general manager doesn't include them in his reports. The board item refers to community workshops. Some workshops are set up so that they're just stations at which people go and ask questions of consultants. I believe that the workshops need to be an active discussion and debate between the consultants and the people who attend the meetings. This is a major undertaking and there's no urgency. I would urge you to take testimony today, but not act, and to schedule this for a following meeting where you and the members of the public can ask the staff about, to get answers to their questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, board. My name is Melinda Booth. I'm the executive director at the South Yuba River Citizens League. As you know, Circle stands firmly in opposition to NID's Centennial Dam proposal. Thus, we're cautiously optimistic that the proposed Centennial Dam seems to be taking a back seat to updating the raw water master plan. A science-based raw water master plan is an absolutely vital first step into charting a secure water future for our community. Circle has been very vocal that NID's current projections of our water needs are incorrect. One of Circle's key concerns is objectively determining the actual projected need for water in the district in the mid to the long term before implementing expensive single-purpose solutions like another dam. So we're happy to see NID prioritize a more rigorous understanding of how local hydrology and our community's water needs are likely to evolve in an uncertain future. Essentially, we support a decision to prioritize the raw water master plan and put the proverbial cart back behind the horse where it belongs. In light of this change of direction, we're calling on NID to place a moratorium on additional work on the Centennial Dam until the raw water master plan is complete. Specifically, NID should immediately cease actions that serve only to advance the construction of the dam, including land purchases and any work on the DEIR and DEIS. Continuing these actions are premature and wasteful while working on the new raw water master plan. Circle understands that planning on a 50-year timeframe is challenging. That's because we've been involved in multiple 30 to 50-year dam relicensing processes, experiences that have underscored both the gravity of the process and the essential role that engaged stakeholders play. In order for the raw water master plan to address community-wide needs, NID must involve diverse stakeholders in transparent, meaningful, and significant ways. And just as important, the raw water master plan will have value only to the extent that it is based on the best scientific and policy tools and analyses available. Circle hopes to work with NID to bring together the right partners to lead us to the flexible, resilient, and adaptable solutions needed for our community. To that end, we look forward to reviewing and commenting on NID's request for proposals to guide the selection of the best company or companies to objectively manage the raw water master plan process. And we're calling on NID to create an open process for selecting the technical advisory committee. Although it's too early to offer more precise input on the makeup of that committee, it's essential that it contain independent scientists and policy analysts with expertise in development of climate change scenarios using both historical data and global climate change models, modeling of hydrology and water use at the landscape level, not just modeling of water system operations, and mountain forest and meadow vegetation management and its effect on water flows. Finally, we'd like to suggest an additional outcome of the raw water master plan process in which stakeholders work with NID and the technical advisory committee towards new decision-making tools and processes for water management in our district. A pertinent example is the collaboration between the Yuba County Water Agency and the Stockholm Environmental Institute that's in Davis. Circle would be excited to partner with NID in pursuing state funding for this purpose should you be interested. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, George Olive, Nevada City. The 50-year planning that will go into this raw water master plan presents an opportunity for NID, a number of opportunities to take advantage both of new practices in water management and also actively involve community stakeholders in decision making. Rem's comments this morning are encouraging in regard to the apparent openness to backing up and opening NID's processes to public input. Most important amongst Rem's comments for me this morning was the statement that government agencies often have preconceived outcomes that dictate the results of a given process. I sincerely hope this is not going to be the case with this raw water master plan update. I urge the board to assure that staff plans to design data collection methods and the building of a stakeholder team that will be assembled early in the RWMP process to provide input on who will join the TAC committee. Perhaps further thought needs to be put into the 9 areas that the staff has in its draft picture of how TAC membership will be selected. Clearly, the members of the TAC committee will have a lot of influence on you guys as far as how this process comes together. In looking at the resolution this morning, I noticed some really key words: collaborative, and especially that all-inclusive and robust community process. I really hope that comes true in this process. Having watched and listened to the Centennial Project as it has proceeded in closed session, and having been surprised when this $500,000 RWMP update suddenly appeared as a full board action, I will join others in holding NID to the apparent intention of a robust, all-inclusive, and collaborative 50-year planning process. I also join others in urging the board and staff as stated in the resolution, to make this plan update a priority that stops property acquisition related to Centennial. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board and the public. Last summer, I'm Bob Brandstrom from Grass Valley. Thanks, Will. Last summer, I had an editorial in the Union in which I called for NID to engage the public more fully in its activities. Nancy Weber, Director Weber, has also been calling for that regularly. At the time, or since then, it wasn't clear whether anybody was listening. I'm happy to say that it does appear that the staff has been listening, and I would like to offer my thanks to General Manager Schertzinger for seriously reading and paying attention to the book that I recommended to him. I think that this proposal makes a radical shift in the direction that NID has been going to engage the public, and I fully applaud that, and I recommend that the board approve that. I would also recommend that, or say that the devil is in the details in anything such as this, and I recommend that the directors listen seriously to the comments that George made, that Melinda made, and that I believe that Tracy is going to make, and maybe Diana too. It's really important to get this right. There will be a significant amount of time and money spent on this, and it is a core document for the district and requires that it be done well. So I recommend you approve it. Thank you for considering it, and let's do it right.
Thank you, Bob.
Good morning. My name's Tracy Sheehan, and I'm with the Foothills Water Network. I actually don't have prepared comments, so I will be short. The first piece I'd like to start off with, though, is to talk a little bit about the history of where this came about. And so I believe I have to hand this to Chris first. Let me make sure. I just found out I have cataracts, so I have a hard time seeing things. There you go. Goes out. Our understanding was that this was looked at in the January WHO committee, and at the time, the WHO committee approved a $7,200 increase, and the scope for that was to simply look at the hydrology and updating the needs, as what was said, and that's also in your resolution. That's the only board action that we're aware of, and I just want to let you know that we do follow these things with interest. The network is very happy to learn of this kind. It sounds like a change in of events, or a turn in events, to look at the raw water master plan and the needs for the district. What I'd like to focus on really is the public component of this. The network and our members have been very involved with processes like this, different processes, and I'm very glad there's a book. That is a very good starting point. Today's public processes start with a stakeholder committee. The public isn't on the bottom. They have the top swim lane and they drive the process. The stakeholder committee helps decide the RFP, the scope, the contracts. It starts with a stakeholder committee. And so I would urge this board to consider, there's been a lot of talk here about the TAC and the makeup of the TAC. That's very important. But as you understand, the technical details aren't really the things that the public are going to be digging into. What the public wants to be involved with and dig into is the transparent process, and understand that they have a meaningful arm in that process. So if you were to choose a stakeholder committee that took in different sectors of the community that you were talking about, the Farm Bureau, the county, the environmental groups, you can say what that is. I've been involved with stakeholder committees that then oversee the TAC. I'm not involved in the TAC. I'm involved in the stakeholder committee. And so the network would like you to start here by appointing the stakeholder committee and giving it as much consideration as what you were thinking about with the TAC. And that's the first step. That's the first step before a contract. That's the first step before a scope is assigned. And so the next time, you're not going to hear just about what the progress is, but you're going to be more involved in the formation. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Diana Suarez, Colfax, California. I was kind of happy to see this. I don't trust the board to be objective or open-minded to anything but a dam. I've watched how they promote dam, dam, dam all the time. So it's very difficult for people on the other side of the river to even believe that this will be an open process. And the reason is because from the very beginning of the Centennial experience, there was not a stakeholder meeting held across the river in the territory that would be inundated, that would lose a park, lose their communities, have impacts on their roads. There was not a stakeholder meeting held over there because we're not within the district. Well, there are stakeholders outside the district. There's a watershed, and you guys claim you're watershed stewards. There's a whole east side of the watershed that's been excluded from the process. I hope they will not be excluded from this process. The east side of the Bear River Canyon needs to be a big-time stakeholder in this process because, as we have seen, there's 5 people here that are taking our homes and our lives, and they don't even know us, and we don't know them, and we certainly didn't vote for them. So there's got to be something in the Constitution about this, inundation without representation. We are stakeholders. We need a seat at every table, and I believe there's more than one stakeholder group. And then I would just like to bring up, besides not having a meeting, the Herbicide Committee has not been open. This hiding of the information at the Centennial update. And then I'm still asking about the video. These are all places
you've
where...
mentioned all that.
I know, but it stacks up. It's
Yeah, I know.
evidence after evidence of non-transparency. So, I would love to believe that this is an open and collaborative process, and I sincerely hope it is, and I hope that we will be included as stakeholders because we have so much to lose. Thank you.
Thanks. Mike.
Mike Pasner, Indian Springs Organic Farm, Penn Valley. Stakeholders, stakeholders, stakeholders. It sounds wonderful. Let's see if you can pull it off. You are currently, right now, not doing it with the Vegetation Management Group. It's been brought to your attention repeatedly. You refuse to take action and include all the stakeholders. How are we going to suspect that you would do it in the future when you're not doing it right now? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I have a comment. Well,
Yeah.
When you have time.
Go ahead. Director Weber.
I'd like to say that I'm always a skeptic, too. I researched everything that I could find online on this process. I didn't want to jump into one camp. It's more than a book that we're involved with. There is legitimate implementation of this sort of thing in communities. The City of Eugene, Oregon has a handbook that they put out specific for them using this model. And so I have a daughter who works for the City of Oregon, and I said, well, what's it like? And she said, everybody who thinks they want to have a part in government has a place to latch on. If you're an employee, it can drive you crazy, but it really works. And so this is a nationwide model. It has substance. It has a structure that looks reasonable to me, and I've had a career working in with humans. I'd ask you folks to give us a chance. This is a reversal. I understand the distrust, and it's deep, and I understand how you got there. But I would ask you to give us a chance and participate and help make this successful. We can't go on as adversaries and have any progress in any direction. So we absolutely have to change where we're going. So please help.
Are there any other questions? Okay, we have a motion. Did you have something to say? Somebody have something to say up here? Okay. Motion in a second. Roll call, please.
Division 1?
Aye.
Division 2?
Aye.
Division 3?
Aye.
Division 5?
Aye.
Division 4?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Okay. Number 8, hydrologic and hydraulic studies. Kian. Mr. Somers. You want to take 30 seconds for people to...
Certainly up to you.
Yeah. We're just going to take like 5-10 seconds here, so those that are going to leave can take off if they want. Okay, say your goodbyes. Go ahead, Ken.
All right, thank you. Good morning, director, staff, and members of the public. It's always difficult to follow the general manager, especially after he demonstrates his mastery of the remote control. So I will endeavor to move through this quickly and efficiently.
He doesn't show as much gray in his beard. Oh, he didn't have a beard.
Yeah,
There you go.
he gave up.
Don't show.
All right, thank you for having me here this morning to discuss our hydrologic reevaluation and hydraulic analysis study. This is a oh, see, I can't even get the slide to advance. We're
Harmon.
Oh man!
Now you've done it. I didn't touch that.
Hey, oh, it's back. All right.
Just give me the signal.
Yeah.
Rem, could you help your staff?
Yeah. Oof. All right. We're here today to talk about the hydrology and hydraulics that we need to do on our 11 reservoirs, 11 spillways, encompassing 4 watersheds on the Middle Yuba River, the Canyon Creek, Deer Creek, and the Bear River. So with that, why are we doing this? So first of all, the district needs this information as the science changes. We still have the same land, but as the climate changes, as the understanding of how the water flows down the hill changes, we need to understand that. It's also been required by FERC as part of our Part 12D independent consultants. They came in, evaluated some of these things, found that some of our studies are, while current with the requirements, somewhat out of date. And then we have a new requirement from the Division of Safety of Dams to update our emergency action plans as required after the Oroville incident. So what are we going to be studying? First and foremost, we need to review our probable maximum precipitation and our probable maximum flood as a result of that maximum precipitation. With that, if those numbers change, and assuming that they will, we will need to update all of our spillway capacities and rating curves. Next one. We'll also be looking at the potential dam breach. This is a requirement by FERC, and then the associated inundation areas with those dam breaches. And then just in general, we'll be looking at a number of hydraulic issues that the Part 12D independent consultant raised. Some of these are new, the NAPE effects on the spillway. That's an emerging sort of area that requires review, and we'll take a look at that. So the process we went through here, we sent out a request for proposal to 7 qualified consulting firms. We received 3 quality proposals representing 5 of those firms. A number of the firms partnered on this study. Staff reviewed it and determined that AECOM demonstrated an efficient approach to satisfying the regulatory needs and brought the most value to the district. So funding also associated with this is a significant budget amendment. There has been a rapid and dramatic change to the regulatory requirements as a result of the Oroville incident. That continues to go on, and on Monday we received a letter from the Division of Safety of Dams updating us on their schedule of fees for the upcoming year. They say that it's a 20% increase in their fees. When I review their methodology, I think it's going to be closer to a 30-35% increase in the fees that we pay them. In 2018, I had $278,250 budgeted for fees that we pay to the Division of Safety of Dams. At a high level, I anticipate that we're going to need to pay an additional $75,000 to $100,000 on top of that budgeted amount. We're also dealing with the recently completed independent consultant review of Oroville and the breakdowns that happened that led to that process. I anticipate that we'll be seeing additional studies required as a result of that. Coming into 2018, I had estimated $340,000 and budgeted $340,000 in the 2018 budget. Based on how things are coming together this year, I estimate that we're going to need about $973,000 to complete these additional studies. That again doesn't include the additional $75,000 to $100,000 associated with the increase with just the general dam fees to the Division of Safety of Dams. We also haven't seen a letter out of FERC that has talked about any of their potential increases, but I think it's safe to assume that they'll be sending us a letter that has increases in it as well. So with that, I'd recommend that the staff recommends that the board approve a contract in the amount of $355,583 with AECOM to perform hydrologic reevaluation and hydraulic analyses, authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents, and then approve the associated budget amendment. With that, I'll open it to any questions.
Any questions here?
So moved.
You have a question?
Second.
Yeah, so the additional $600,000 in studies are basically budgeted in the 2019 year?
No, we'll begin completing them as soon as, assuming the board approves this,
So
we will begin.
there'll be more budget amendments coming this way to complete these studies?
I hope that this will get us through 2018, and then as part of the 2019 process, we'll budget for anything that comes up at us in the near future.
And I think I heard you correctly that these requirements are basically Division of Dam Safety. Thank you. These additional requirements are Division of Dam Safety requirements and not FERC requirements. And you expect more on top of this from FERC, or to what extent will these studies satisfy FERC?
So these are, the studies are largely driven by the FERC Part 12D independent consultant. The additional fees, the letter that we received was from Division of Safety of Dams. We have not received a similar letter from FERC yet. So these studies...
The studies will satisfy FERC?
The studies will satisfy FERC, yes.
And will they
and
also,
DSOD.
And they will also satisfy DSOD?
Presumably, but as the regulations change and the two don't agree on a process yet. So we're working to satisfy both at the same time, but I cannot promise that at this time.
This is where my old favorite deliberate compliance plays in. You know, only too quick to, but I'm not.
Also understand that these are equal masters.
Yeah.
FERC is equal in stature to DSOD, so it isn't that one trumps the other. So they can both inflict their regulatory expenses as well as requirements on similar stature.
Well, one would hope that what they inflict is congruent rather than separate.
That hasn't been our past experience, unfortunately.
Any more questions?
So we don't actually know the final damage here.
That's
correct.
A fair assessment.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's just say it's getting harder and harder to make a profit out of hydro. That's today's message, both in the risk assessment.
I think the PUC allowed PG&E to raise rates last year. I think it works its way through the system. I don't think that's a fair conclusion, though. Costs go up, but
I think it
PG&E
says that
pays more because they're paying.
Yeah.
It all goes.
things are getting more expensive, and they're shedding a lot of their responsibility and their requirement onto us without any kind of funding. It's an unfunded mandate, right? I mean, it's just becoming more difficult.
Is there any public comment? Okay.
Ren Lipowitz, Grass Valley. I would hope that you would take this ramping up of regulations, which is justly so because of dams failing everywhere, as a cautionary tale to take into consideration with this new dam. And then one piece of information, I think it's related, that I'd like to share. I got an email from American Rivers this morning. There's some harmful legislation, HR 3144, that would prevent emergency salmon saving measures. What it's asking is that dams be prohibited from opening their spillways so salmon can make it downstream. So just a note, if you'd like to look into that HR 3144, very destructive piece of legislation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have another comment on the subject of hydraulic studies.
Yes, good morning. Bruce Herring, Division 2. Just a simple question in regards to the raw water master plan that we are just undertaking.
Not on the raw water.
There's the problem statement phase, there's the demand and the supply studies. Is this, the H&H study, does this take care of that?
No.
Study? It's a separate thing? Okay, I was just curious. So that will happen in addition to this?
Correct.
I had the same question. It
Okay.
sounded like it was the same thing, but yeah, this
Right.
is the dam safety. It just is called H&H.
Okay.
This is upstream, the other.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Okay, thanks. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Division 1.
Aye.
Division 2.
Aye.
Division 3.
Aye.
Division 5.
Aye.
Division 4.
Aye. Motion passed. Chicago Park Powerhouse 4-Bay Level Control. Gary King, sole source contract, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning, board, public, and staff. Gary King, engineer manager of the district. This is item 9, Chicago Park Powerhouse 4-Bay Level Controls, Vibration Protection, and Balance of Plant PLC. The goal of this is to award a sole source contract to DeHurl Systems in the amount of $299,075.13 to design, fabricate, and install a 4-bay level control, vibration protection, and balance of plant process logic control for the project at the Chicago Park Powerhouse, and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents. In essence, what we have is we have aged facilities that we currently have a problem with the feeding reservoir to this facility, that it can spill over. This intent would be to integrate that facility with the existing plant so it doesn't spill over. In addition, make some modifications inside the existing plant that are necessary because of the aged facility. It is a sole source contract. The intimacy with the plants that Al DeHurl has in his operation are foremost important to this because of we are merging in with our existing facilities. That makes Al very knowledgeable of what we have and what we don't have. The budget is from the powerhouse improvements, and currently we have $1.35 million in that budget. This was budget $250,000. After this contract approval, there'll be $645,000 remaining in that budget. It's a recommendation staff approve a sole source contract with Al DeHurl in the amount of $299,075.13.
Gary, could you briefly explain what DeHurl Systems has done previously?
It's probably a litany.
And how it's integrated.
Al DeHurl is a company that does the systems, and he's worked on our plants for probably 25 years or so. Yeah, he's very intimate. Our plants are 50+ years old. It takes a certain amount of knowledge of how the plants operate. That's the advantage that Al has, is the age of our plants make it such that anybody who's been working on them a lot understands how they work. Another contractor or anybody else, the prices would be exceptionally higher, and they wouldn't understand the intimacy with our current system.
So they'd have to go to school with the...
They'd have to go to school, and well, they already go to school, but the thing is they'd have to spend extensive amount of time learning how our systems operate.
Yeah, I was just going over the reasons for the sole source contract.
Yes, sir. I understand your sensitivity to that, sir.
This control at the 4-bay, do we have feedback information?
As far as?
SCADA?
Well,
like SCADA thing?
there's a certain level in the reservoir.
Ken, you want to answer this?
Yeah, please.
There you go. Go ahead.
Well, they didn't understand the question.
No, that's all right. They know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so essentially this PLC will take the information from the sensors on the reservoir. It will interact with the powerhouse, and the two will act together.
And feedback?
And feedback information,
Okay.
correct. I would also like to, in terms of the previous work that DeHurl Systems has done for us here in the last 2 years, they've done the excitation systems at Chicago Park and Dutch Flat. They also did a very similar project at the Bowman Powerhouse, installing a PLC there. and then just some various little tasks along the way. In addition to simply controlling the reservoir, the PLC is designed such that it will take information on the general health of the powerhouse. It's also going to monitor the vibration of the powerhouse. It's also going to monitor the temperature, which will be very useful information to us as we go forward. If we can see a change in the vibration, if we can see a change in the temperature, it should greatly improve our ability to do preventative maintenance on this on the powerhouse out there. So this is key for a number of different reasons.
Thank you, Kean.
Great. Do we have a motion?
No. I'll make a motion. I'll award a sole source contract to DeHero Systems in the amount of $299,075.13 to design, fabricate, and install a 4-bay level control, vibration protection, and balance of plant process logic control the project at the Chicago Park Powerhouse, and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Motion second. Is there any public comment on item 9? No public comment? Roll call.
Division 1.
Aye.
Division 2.
Aye.
Division 3.
Aye.
Division 5.
Before I vote, I'd just like to say, in general, I'm not enthusiastic about sole source contracts, but I'm also aware that this gentleman, DeHero, is local. He's an expert. He's done a lot of work for us in the past, and the quality of his work is excellent. And so I'm confident in this case that his bid is competitive and that it's in the best interest of the district. So I vote aye.
Division 4.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passed. General Manager's report.
Good morning, board, staff, and public. It's my pleasure to update you on a few items this morning. Currently, NID is sitting at 255,660 acre-feet in storage, which is 95% of capacity, and that our precipitation at Bowman as of the 18th was 66 inches, roughly 106% of average. So we're right on the normal bubble there for precip. Snow is not where we want it to be, but that is what it is. Kean stole my thunder on the DSOD increasing its annual fees. This is just a byproduct of Orville and of the swelling of DWR in this area, and some of it is warranted, right? I mean, this department needs help, and it needs to understand the situation of the facilities, but all of our facilities are in good condition. I had the pleasure of meeting with Katrina Olson at Nevada City to discuss a number of things, some of them their water supply issues, but also community choice aggregation and the energy stuff. I also continued our support of the city in the cross connection of our treatment facility with their system, so that when their treatment plant has difficulty, we can step in and support their users. Talking about CCA, CCE, currently internally, staff is starting to put together some ideas around a community choice aggregation, community choice energy roundtable that we would like to have all the community come together and discuss how to start moving that forward as an initiative here for Nevada County. So we're looking to do that probably in the third quarter. I had the pleasure of attending the MCWRA meeting regarding government overreach. It was enlightening and troubling, and given that clearly the state intends to force conservation on water districts, and its goal is to ensure that conserved water goes to the Delta. That's its expectation. Conserved water will not stay with the local entities. Others, they're very focused on the Delta settlements and on voluntary settlement agreements and how they get those and how they can coerce districts into giving them up, as well as water rights infringement. It seems clear that the state is engaged in activities to rewrite water rights law. And so we have to be very, very careful and very active in that area. I had the pleasure of attending the Sierra Fund annual celebration down in Sacramento, and I did take time to thank Secretary Liard for his leadership and his support in the budget change proposal that his staff worked very hard with us and with Izzy from the Sierra Fund on to acquire, and today we moved that agreement forward and are now making the single largest investment in mercury in the state of California. And hopefully we can demonstrate a number of technologies so that places like Clear Lake and San Diego and others have a way to deal with mercury in those reservoirs efficiently and not inject nitrate or inject oxygen or whatever it is they're going to try to use to sequester mercury on the bottom of these reservoirs. Also, just a couple items of note. The MET's board, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California's board, voted to approve an $11 million budget item to build the twin tunnels. Billion, sorry, billion. Million with a B, billion. My apologies. So they have now they have the cash. Now they have one last hurdle to get through, and it is the governor's task, as I understand it, to make sure that water rights are complete and intact before he leaves office. Also, just a note, an item for everyone, the Water Rates Committee, which is a standing committee of the district, but only comes online when we're starting to set our rates, which we're gearing up to do. That committee is meeting on May 29th at 5 o'clock here at the district, and so we're starting that process as well, and we look forward to leading that charge. Penn Valley, the project will start back up again next week. Rattlesnake backbone extension pipeline we're laying roughly 1,000 feet at a whack. It's a little bit slower going than past because we're attaching a pertini at the time that we're laying the pipe as opposed to coming back and putting it back on. The RFP and CEQA for the Lake Wildwood to Elizabeth George proposal, the backbone extension pipeline, that's on its way out. And then Brewer Road, we got 300 feet installed. Orchard Springs roof is being installed. And we're close to closing the intertie with Rock Creek and PG&E. So one PG&E thing down, many more to go.
Could you expound a little bit on the CCA, what the time frame is, and is there a time frame?
We don't have a time frame at this point, Director Morbeck. What we're trying to do is inform the community, try to have an open conversation with the community to see if it's something that the community wants to do, right? I mean, why is NID kind of driving the bus is that there's a CCA presents the district with a significant cost savings in terms of our ability to buy power through the CCA cheaper than we're buying it through PG&E. Okay, so NID's power bill is roughly, and it's just under $1 million. If we're able to save 10% on that power bill, that's a $100,000 infusion of cash into the district through avoided cost. That $100,000 is roughly a 0.5% rate increase on an annual basis. So that's very real money all the way down to our customers, right? I mean, it translates directly. And so the understanding, knowing that Nevada cities has the energy committee that Don Ravines is kind of leading. Clearly there's activity there, and we want to support that activity, and we want to help it grow. And so I think it's important that we keep pushing.
We have a unique position, though, being not only a customer, but being part of the CCA. Is that right?
Being a generator.
Well, it depends on how the community wants to move forward. Right. I mean, if the community wants to set up a JPA and start a CCA, just like Pioneer Power down in Placer County.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. NID can't join that only because we're a power seller, and so. But it's a marketplace for us. But more importantly, it is a place for us to buy power cheaper than the power that we're buying now.
So it would be similar to then Placer County, how Placer County is doing.
It is exactly. Well, currently NID is buying power from Pioneer. Our North Auburn treatment plant is seeing a benefit. We have to see how that benefit matures, but we're watching it closely because that treatment plant is on 24 hours a day. It's consuming a ton of power, right? So it makes sense to start the conversation here. Now, Pioneer can extend its services to Nevada County and Grass Valley and Nevada City. It absolutely can. And that's one of the things that, we want that roundtable to talk about. We want to help people become informed. We want to help guide that conversation, or help be a part of that conversation, so that we can try to get it off the ground.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Could we be a generator energy provider to Pioneer?
Yes. So right now we have Director Wilcox, we have a number of generators that are about to lapse their contract with PG&E. Mostly our smaller units, the combi units, Scott's Flat unit. So staff is actively looking for opportunities for the district to engage in different sales contracts, right? So we can sell to PG&E, we can sell to Marin Clean Power or Clean Energy, MCE, we can sell to Sonoma. There are a number of CCAs that are up and running. We can sell to Pioneer. Yes. So if the CCA here materializes, we would love to bid in, right? I mean, if we are the CCA, then the community benefits, because the community's generators, NID's generators, are providing power directly to the community, and we can sidestep an overhead component that.
So what you're saying is that we could be a CCA independent of the county and the city?
Not independent. If NID, if the community wants NID to step into that role.
That's what I'm saying.
All it takes is the local entities to request that as in resolution, and then NID can do that. But that's for them to decide.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any more questions? General managers, board of directors reports. Let's start with you, Director Weber.
Okay. On the 17th of this month, I went to an evening meeting for the Scotts Flat Trails. The problem over the gate closure brought out a lot of people. That was in December. And over the period of time since then, we've come to more of a solution-oriented group. In the beginning, it was just people who were really upset. The group representatives who will be working to choose and work on building trails are BONK, the bicycle group, Bear Yuba Land Trust, and trail builders. There were two different groups of trail builders at the last meeting. It feels good to be working toward a solution, and there's hope that this will be done before DSOD decides we just can't go across the dam by foot or horseback or any kind of vehicle. We also, the fencing is a separate issue at this point, but being dealt with in parallel fashion. And there's an RFP out for a contractor to give us options on fencing. And we are looking at aesthetics as well as just the function of the fence. So this is dealt with at Maintenance and Resources Committee meeting on the third Tuesday of each month. But this was an extra evening meeting to work toward people who would be walking these proposed trails and actually have some level of participation in it other than just commenting. So keep tuned.
Director Drew.
Well, I have a couple of slides I want to share with folks. Can we do the lights?
Do you have anything, Scott?
That's a persimmon tree there in the background, and in the foreground are lemon balm plants. No weeds growing around the lemon balm plants. Lemon balm is one of the components in the organic herbicides that are in the trial program. It is extremely effective. Not only does it keep grasses and other weeds from growing, but it prevents them from germinating. Next slide. It's brown trout out of Rollins Lake, which has turned out to be a very successful fishery. These fish are also present in Scotts Flat, and every now and then you'll find one in Bowman, rarely in Jackson Meadows. But over time, people introduced, the next slide please, Chip, smelt. And these are an Asian smelt or a Chinese smelt upon which the brown trout feeds. All of those smelt came out of the belly of that one brown trout, which is a very successful food chain. Now, not only do the smelt support the trout population, but they also support the bird population, the mergansers and the other feeders like that. You can find the same thing if you take, not the same thing, but a very similar thing. If you get a 20-pound striped bass out of the Sacramento River, and in the belly will be salmon instead of these fish. That's all.
Oh, Director Wilcox. Director Wilcox.
Last week I did attend the State of the Yuba presentation by Circle. The arguments that were presented are arguments we've heard before. There are two new bits of information, though, that came out that I would like to present. These are arguments against Centennial.
Can't hear you.
Thank you. I did attend the State of the Yuba program last week. The arguments that were presented against Centennial were arguments we've heard before. There were two new arguments. Apparently, yellow-breasted chats and ringtails are species of concern, at least at that presentation. They're not species of concern, generally speaking, however. Yesterday, I had lunch with Victoria Whitney. It's my old boss at the State Water Board. She was head of the Bay Delta unit. She became the chief of the Division of Water Rights there, and later became assistant executive director of the Water Board for water rights and later for water quality. She's retired. She has agreed to come and give us a workshop or presentation on water rights and related issues. And so this is yet to be scheduled, but I'm just giving folks a heads up on this. And she will be presenting Water Rights 101. She'll also address area of origin and county of origin issues and public trust issues. I think these are all important issues. I am going to have lunch next week with Barbara Leidig, who is the retired senior attorney from the State Water Board, who may come up that same day to be available for questions. And she is an expert on county and area of origin issues, and probably with Vicki will be her husband, whom I've known for years. He is the retired executive officer of the Water Quality Control Board Region 5, and has worked specifically on the mercury issues that we've been discussing today, as has Vicki. And they would be in a position to answer questions about the mercury program from the state's perspective, because they're experts in this issue. So stay tuned. It's a good opportunity for folks to get some education on issues that are pertinent to things we're doing and also not well understood.
All right, thanks. Is there any public, next is closed session, is there any public comment on any item considered in closed session? No? I don't know if we're going to have a report out or not.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Okay, we're stand
Action
adjourned.
expected?
Is there action? No action expected. Stand adjourned. Take a 5-minute break. Well,
slides promoting river fish and nothing representative.
This time I'd like to close, and open, and I'm deferring to Mr. Cooper.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. It's 12:02. The announcement from closed session was that direction was given to real property negotiators and a performance evaluation of the general manager was conducted.
Thank you. This time I'd like to close the open session. We stand adjourned.